All right, in this episode, I have the CEO of Unleash here, all the way from Norway, Egil Østhus. Egil, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and I'm super excited to be here. Pumped to talk to you today, Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. When I got the request from somebody from Norway, I was like, wow, my podcast is going all around the world, man. This is incredible stuff. I'm really excited that you found me because we had a preliminary call and you had talked about a little bit about your journey into entrepreneurship and kind of how you wound up into it. Can you tell us all about that and what led you to start your company?
Sure. So first and foremost, hi everyone. I'm Egil, CEO and co-founder of Unleash. So Unleash is doing feature management for developers. Basically, we make life easy for developers using Unleash. So that's our mission. So I identify myself as a developer, you know. I mean, the typical story being the kid hacking your parents' computer, you crack it and you put it together again, and there you go. So this is dating back to the early 90s. So, moving along, went into college, did a degree in computer science, started off my career as a professional developer, super living the dream there. And was super fortunate because I was a part of a really talented community and really talented environment. And that's great, but at the same time, it made me realize that my core competence, my talent, is not in software development. Actually, I'm mediocre when it comes to write code, but I'm
Mm,
pretty good at understanding how tech impacts businesses and getting people together and drive teams. So I eventually started to move more into more architecture, leadership roles, project management, and eventually leadership positions. So I was having a great time moving into the corporate ladder. You
mhm,
take responsibility, you do some success there, and you move on to the next assignment. And when this opportunity to start the Unleash came along, I was setting up an organization of, I don't know, 600 developers type of environment. I was running a company down in Netherlands, so I was
mhm,
commuting to Netherlands every week, sorry. And I was having a blast, honestly. It was great, but there was some sort of interesting challenges I was facing. So this business was payroll accounting and
mhm,
payroll first and foremost. And you don't mess with people's money, so it was really tedious to get released into production. And my assignment was sort of doing the full transformation into DevOps in this company. It was an M&A type of business, and I had all of the executive support to do the transformation. Fact was that I had customer contracts where there was statements there saying the customer was allowed to do a 3 months approval cycle for my releases, which
mhm,
doesn't really correspond well with the DevOps way of thinking, right? You want to release fast and you want to go to production at any time. So that was sort of a catch-22, honestly. And so my co-founder brought Unleash to my attention saying, hey, I have this open source project and guess what? You can decouple release to customer to release to production. And that was sort of an eye-opener. So Unleash was created for the digital natives, meaning people that is sort of born out of cloud. I definitely saw a big need for also a larger, let's say, dinosaur type of company. That was where I was at. It was sort of a transformation more than anything.
mhm,
And what that led to was sort of this statement saying, okay, this is a universal need. This is a problem that is across multiple type of companies. It doesn't come into any local legislation, so it's a global problem. Every company, every developer on the globe have this problem one way or the other.
mhm,
And you asked me, so what led to jump and pursue this opportunity? It was basically for me, I wanted to go global. I wanted to work on products that was really about universal problems that is sort
mhm,
of common for a big market.
mhm.
And I'm always been very international oriented, so I wouldn't really go and build something for Norway, where that it's interesting, but it's just not my cup of tea. So
Right.
we understood, okay, this has the potential to go global. Well, there is an opportunity. There is sort of inbound already. Let's go and see if there is a market to be built there, or if there is a position for us to pursue. And basically that's what we did. And we spent about a year understanding the positioning. Is there a segment for us to take? Is there is there willingness to pay for this product? And after a year of customer conversation, I think we talked to more than 100 customers through that first year. We started to see that this is actually some opportunity, and we were able to raise some money and really go after this opportunity. So I'm the
Mm.
corporate guy moving into the startup world.
I see, I see. Yeah, that seems to be a trend now. A lot of people are jumping into entrepreneurship from the corporate world.
Yeah.
I guess, how's it been so far? Like, how do you feel, going from that type of environment to being, managing uncertainty in this global company?
Honestly, I think nobody that is in this seat would say it's only a joyride. Obviously, it's a roller coaster, right? It's great because there is a lot of opportunity. You have a lot of impact. You can really get a lot of stuff done, right? And the big wins is really next to nothing when you
Mhm.
have the big ups. But also, it's of course challenging because there is just yourself and your team, and the team is small, so you really need to every problem you need to turn kind of stone into gold. I'm not sure if that translates well to your environment, but it's a very common phrase here up in the north. So you need to kind of make the most of every situation, and you need to kind of always seek opportunities rather than be hold down by challenges. But it's great, and I would say it's in some parts it's easier than being in corporate,
Mm.
and in some parts it's definitely more difficult. So it's a mix of all things, but it's really exciting too, and it makes me really proud, honestly, when we get all of the company together and like just seeing all of the people we are working together on this mission that we started back in our basement a few years back.
Oh yeah, I was gonna get to ask you, like, how old is the company now? What stage are you guys at the moment?
Yeah, so we registered the business back I think in 2019. So that was when we started to explore, and I would say we have really built the company since 2021.
Mm.
So we are a couple of years in that journey, and no, sorry, 2020. So 1 year earlier than I thought. So we are about 5 years in, and we are 500 paying customers. A lot of customers all across the globe. Majority of the names and logos are in the US and Europe, but we also start seeing more traction from also Japan and Asia in general.
Mm.
Obviously, Asia is huge, so the
Yep.
pockets of interest is particular, I would say, Japan, Singapore,
Hmm.
Australia. We do see quite a bit of India, obviously,
Hmm.
and most and for first and foremost.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's a really exciting time, to be
Yes.
in a global company and expanding. It sounds really great. 5 years in, usually startups last anywhere from 7 to 10 years before they exit or, have a big break. So you're right in the middle of it. What are
Yeah.
some unique challenges that you're going through right now? Mm.
Right. I would
Yeah.
say one of the top of mind challenges right now for us is, I would say, visibility in the market, right? So usually when you are a startup, depends a bit on t what type of business you are building. If you're building kind of a business or category create, it's a different type of conversation. We already have big players in our category. So we are up against the people with tons of money to spend on their marketing.
Mm.
So how do you break through that noise? I think it's also a great opportunity to be in a market where there is large players already because they tend to spend a ton of marketing on the problem you solve. So the challenge is more of how do we kind of make ourselves different, and how do we make sure that when our main competitors are spending all of their marketing money, some of that is also benefiting us, in the
Mhm.
sense that people are aware of this is something where you want to spend your money. So, but I would say that's a big problem because you are most likely up against really large players, that is getting a ton of, money makes you visible.
Yeah, exactly. Money solves a lot of problems, but it also creates a lot. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's true, man. I think what you're doing is great because this isn't obviously the first podcast you've done. You've done many podcasts, right? I've seen you on
Mhm.
YouTube as well and other shows, and that's what a lot of big companies can't do. but that's what startup founders can uniquely do. And I
Mm,
actually am doing a workshop on personal branding and the
mm,
importance of it. Because,
mm,
you look at the most famous companies around the world, let's say Tesla or Elon Musk. Who has
mm,
more followers? Elon Musk does, obviously,
yeah.
right? So I think what you're doing is really powerful. And I just wanted to ask you in terms of that, how has your journey been in terms of like personal branding and getting your name out there compared to your
Mm.
companies?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think I'm more as a novice in this than any. I would say so. It's sort of, I think the question you're raising is sort of what type of brand do you want to build,
Hmm.
right? And I would say we and I as a CEO, I think you need to be authentic, right? I think it's really hard to pretend to be not something I'm not. So I would say the brand we are building is less of me and more of us,
Mm.
meaning, and I think Apple is a very good example of that. When you had Steve Jobs, Apple was Steve Jobs.
Hmm.
And then they moved into a new CEO. And who is the new CEO? Do you remember? I
Tim
don't.
Cook. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Of
but yeah,
course, it's Tim Cook, but it's
yeah,
sort of, he's not that visible. So they sort
right.
of started to change their brand to being
Mm.
Apple and not being Steve Jobs. And we are building Unleash. We are not building me.
Mm.
So part of my personal branding is sort of how do I strengthen Unleash and not only strengthen myself and then Unleash, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So that's one part. The other part is also, I believe that you need to have a clear opinion.
Yeah.
If you don't have a clear opinion, I mean, if everybody is sort of nodding and saying, "Yeah, that sounds good," nobody cares. So you need to have a stated opinion, and not everybody need to and can follow you, or I would say agree with you.
Hmm.
So I would say our tone of voice or our professional thought leadership would be, we are really doubling down on saying we have a very clear opinion on how software should be built. We have a really clear opinion on how software in large enterprises should be built, because that's may and sometimes are different than for smaller startups, obviously.
Hmm.
And that also leads on into what type of topics do we involve ourselves in. So, and going back to the authentic part, I would say I'm a technologist, but I'm a leader first. My true passion is leadership, and through leadership, my true passion is more than anything building culture, and I've seen that very successful and also very not successful in multiple companies, and I believe that where my contribution to the brand is sort of saying, okay, when you want to build high efficient, super fast moving software development teams, what does that mean into leadership and culture building, and how good should you go by that? Because that's authentic.
Hmm.
And then I will have my co-founder, much more of an architect, much more of a deep technologist, going into the weeds of, okay, when you build software, this is the other parts you want to think about. So it's sort of bringing all of them together, and also my VP of marketing is a very strong technologist as well, and he brings us a separate point of view. So we all kind of bring all of these points of view together, and are we great? Well, we are getting up and running and getting better, and also one of the parts I've seen is AI is really allowing you to accelerate this massively,
Hmm.
which is super interesting for us, and I guess for everybody on the show.
100%. And I think the product you're building in terms of DevOps, right? That helps deploy applications, right? Is that correct?
Mm.
My understanding
Correct.
of that. I think that's going to be even more prevalent now that we have all these no code, like, or these vibe coding, tools out there. Like, how
Yeah.
do you see the landscape changing with DevOps and software
Mm.
development now that everyone's empowered to do it on their own? They
Yeah.
don't need
Yeah.
developers.
Yeah, no, I think this is the conversation in the industry right now. Everybody's I think there is also a FOMO. It's sort of, there is something happening. I don't know really what, and how do I make sure I'm not getting sort of left on the train station when the express train is sort of getting up to speed. So obviously and first and foremost, my advice to leaders and any kind of, even if it's a small startup or a larger organization, you just need to have hands-on experience. You can read whatever you want, you can listen to podcasts, that's sort of great, but by the end of the day, you need to really put it into practice and really get your hands a bit dirty and really get some experience of that. So our approach to AI in our company is saying, well, uh, we will not we will not seek to hire more people right now. We just want to kind of see how we can utilize AI in order to really get more work done. And I also see that in software development in particular, I mean, there is a ton of hype around the vibe coding, right? Everybody can write software these days. You can just go and prompt it, and there you go. Obviously, for a particular large organization, we all see that there is two core challenges with the vibe coding part. One is security. We haven't seen the big security incident coming from vibe coding yet. It's about to come, and when that happens, it will be a disaster, I'm sure, and that will be a big challenge for these companies. And the second part is also scalability and sort of the large scale of this. So a lot of the software development is also how to build systems that really scale and really can handle peaks, can handle sort of redundancy, make sure that there is, can AI come in eventually and do this? Yes, 100%. I believe that is the case, but I would be very careful to put any kind of vibe coded application out there and just think it will be automatically scaled. So what does the future look like? I think that this future is very much what is often referred to as agentic software development. So
Mhm.
I think that the software development lifecycle won't change dramatically. You will keep having, we need to build something that makes people, that people needs. So that is sort of what is the type of requirement. So that is an important part of software development. We need to design it in a way that it scales, that it's secure, that is sort of resilient. So that's part of design. Obviously, we need to create it and we need to release it and deploy it in a way that makes sense. So
Mm.
all of that is sort of where we see agents coming in and speeding up that process. So there is no reason for a human being to kind of gather all of those requirements from users. We already see quite some success in requirement gathering, and also you can do very good sentiment analytics on feedback from customers to really gather where do you need to invest more in your product and where do you want to kind of, what is the new capability that you should build. So that is sort of an agent that will work next to the product owner or the product manager, gonna really speed up that work, right? To break down the requirements into user stories and make it ready for development. And also in the design and development phase, it's sort of agents. You have Copilot, you have Cursor, you have different type of support that basically used in the proper way will accelerate the speed of how efficient an individual can be. Used wrong, it can make a disaster for the company. So
Yeah.
you still need that kind of intervention, at least for now. And again, if you start thinking about it, if you speed up that cycle of getting shipping more code, you still need that protection layer that a feature management tool such as Unleash can give you, meaning you can get more, you can build more capabilities, you can build more software quicker, faster. But then again, the speed of change is also increasing. So that also means you need to have that really laser focused capability to say, how quickly do I want to release this? How is this ready to be released to everybody? Do I need to test it on some? This is the gradual rollout use cases that is really typical to use for user for feature management. And I see Unleash as a typical fit into that or agentic software development tech stack. It gets you the protection layer. It really gets all of the power that you need to roll out the the changes that you can do at hyper speed. And I would never work or suggest to do anything else than having this layer of. I think of it as an insurance policy more than anything. You
Mm.
have something to make sure that if there is a mistake, you can promptly remove that part of the code quickly at
Mm.
runtime.
Mm.
And just look at the big Google incident that was a few weeks back. I mean, great companies, great developers are still making mistakes, and mistakes are having tremendous impact. And it took them a couple of hours to roll this back. Using a feature management would or a feature flag would disable this feature within seconds, and that will take away that incident. And if you read the postmortem, they're stating out every developer in Google needs to have a feature flag protecting the code in their releases moving forward. So I cannot say that I don't see any stronger statement than that sort of supporting why is this needed also for AI in the future.
Well, yeah, a lot of the problems that with AI that we're seeing now are yet to be seen, actually, right? Like people don't realize that this stuff is going to happen, and when people don't realize they have a problem, they tend to not consider options like Unleash or anything like that, right? At least until when something happens and then like the fire is burning. I feel like a lot of corporations, right? They're always putting out fires when in reality they should be, preventing these things from happening. So how do you
Yeah.
go in terms of getting new customers? Like, how do you convince them that this is going to be a problem and they need to,
Hmm.
yeah, look out for it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question, and I think there is a one keyword that you used there. It was convince.
Hmm.
So what we see is if you need to convince, you have a big problem in your sales cycle.
Mm,
So obviously, what we are focusing a ton of is qualification, meaning understanding that there is a real problem that the customer care about that we can solve.
mm,
So how do we get customers? So basically, our go-to-market is I would say it's around two pieces. It's open source. So open source means that it's easily accessible for developers. So when they explore opportunities, we are there and it's free to use. And developers tends to not be super open to sales conversations, so they really
yes,
want
that's true.
to have a sales call
That's true.
which works good, meaning that they can start using Unleash in their test projects. They can start to use it. They can sort of build trust in the product, and then we engage with them at a later stage. So that's one part. And also the second part is, of course, content. Content is king for developers. Again, developers don't want to be sold to. They don't want to sort of have a sales call. So they are seeking for solutions and way to handle what they are looking for to solve. And by really having great content on applicable pains problems that is relevant for developers, where we can come in and support, that makes it also a inbound sort of or a top of funnel. And this is also where we anchor our outbound. We also do outbound motions with to bring in prospect customers,
Mm,
and it's all about sort of digging into what type of challenges are you thinking about this? Is this sort of something that is relevant to you guys? And really kind of explore what are the key initiatives, what is really top of mind of those. And I mean, if there is an VP that is not looking to, as you say, protect himself or the
mm,
organization for disasters, it's really hard sell to convince them that you need to think otherwise. You
mm.
can educate, you can sort of do that, but it's a longer process. So that's where we have more kind of drip campaigns and sort of keep that person kind of informed that this is something for you to consider. But we are actively really working hard not to convince, rather kind of educate and say, this is a problem that a lot of your peers in the industry is thinking about. This is how to solve it. Is this relevant for you? And let me know if that makes sense for you to engage.
I actually really love your guys' strategy, making the technology open source and letting the 90% of people use it, like the developers use it for free, get their hands dirty with it, see the need for it, and then, you know, those people become your early adopters. Those type of people become your evangelists that will go to the top and be like, hey, we need this in our organization.
Yeah,
Right.
100%. So
That's
we
a
see that again and again, and it's really helpful, and it really makes us building trust with those people in the organization that is really impacted by these type of tooling. So it's good to build out those. We want to make them look good.
I absolutely love this because, you were a developer who turned into a CEO, right? You come from that perspective and you understand the customer really well. And it's why you're being so successful now, which is amazing.
Mm.
I actually wanted to go back to a topic we brought up earlier, and that's about leadership. I think this
Yeah.
is something that doesn't get talked about enough. And sometimes, people find themselves in leadership roles, whether they're a startup founder or a manager
Mm.
or a team lead or something like that. What is your definition of leadership?
Huh. Well, that is a good question. Yeah, what is leadership? I think that my definition of leadership is, I would say, making stuff happen and making stuff happen through others, more so than anything. I would say you can look at formal leadership, meaning I'm a manager, so I'm entitled to tell you what to do. But there is the most strong leaders is may also be informal leaders, meaning I'm a peer, I'm just like one of you, but I can definitely get stuff done by support you to motivate you to kind of. So I think the leadership is more than anything to make stuff happen and also of course make the right stuff happen, right?
Mm,
So leadership is sort of coming back to you need to understand where you're going. You need to understand if
mm,
you're kind of a top leader, meaning the CEO, you need to understand where you're heading for a couple, like in a few years, and what is sort of the path going there. Um, if you are kind of a middle manager, you need to say, okay, the company is moving here, and that means that we need to do this in order to support these this sort of company goals. So it's a lot about the direction, but also you need to work with your individuals to sort of allow them to understand how they what they need to do in order to make all of this happen. And of course, some in some positions, some organizations is more kind of task driven, and some of them is more kind of goal driven and outcome driven. And I think there is not like one solution. There is not like one perfect playbook because it really depends on the type of situation, the type of context, the type of business, and the type of environment you're in. So I think it's really hard to say what is leadership because it depends, right? It depends.
Absolutely. There's so many different situations that may
Yes.
arise, and you're
Yeah.
constantly tested in that role, especially as a
Yeah.
CEO. Everything falls on you in terms of the
Yeah.
responsibility and things like that. So managing your emotions and the emotions of others is
Mm,
key. You brought something up about the direction of the company and the vision, I believe, right? What is your
mm,
vision for Unleash, and how do you get people to buy into that vision as well?
mm. And so the vision for us and or why do we exist? We exist to make life easy for developers, right? And what does that mean? I would say that mean that developers are a core asset to the company, meaning the typical slogan or quote is every company is a software company these days, right? So software is really fundamental to all of the businesses today. And fact is that software is also, or creating software, building software is often looked upon as really a black box, right? It's complicated. It's challenging to understand. It's really usually there is developers are perceived as super smart, and they are. But it also may sometimes they are not always trained in sort of translating what they do into business language, meaning I think we can all relate to as software developers that you get really kind of focused on your really niche problem that is super interesting for so many reasons. But then again, if you kind of engage with your executive management or business leadership, is sort of I don't get anything, and why is this important to me? Which is sort of fair enough. And so making life easy for developers is for us providing developers the tool set and capabilities to really get what they love the most, creating software, solving complex problems, and also make that really available and accessible and useful in the larger business context. So we spend as much time talking to business leaders as we do talking to developers, bridging the gap of saying, okay, this black box of really complex systems that the software developers are doing actually makes you very successful because, and this is how you can make that success really shine for your company. So we are really there to solve all of this, and feature management is the first step. And there are so many adjacent problems that is sort of coming to the next level of building this out. So there's a great future for keep going on this journey, and that's what we want to do, make life easy for developers.
Yeah, there's going to be even more developers now that everyone can vibe code, right?
100%. And then you asked me, so how does the future look like? I would say one of the conversation or concerns, I think that is also hype. It's there. Okay, we are going to see less developers in the company. Maybe you're going to
Mm,
see a lot of AI supporting the software development team, and maybe that also impacts less of an explosion in need of developers per se. But I think actually you will see more need for developers because you would need more developers in all parts of the company.
mm.
I saw a McKinsey report the other day. I think it was McKinsey or maybe it was Gartner that was saying that as of now, sales and marketing is the ones departments that is deploying AI quicker than engineering. So I definitely see a need for engineers moving into sales, moving into marketing, moving into finance, moving into all of those operations to really support their peers to write out all of these agentic processes that support the business to do this. And this is still an engineering task.
It's incredibly difficult. And I think communication skills, like you're saying, sales, marketing, those type of positions, they want to get stuff out quickly and they need to be able to communicate, to product managers, usually a development team, but now they can do it themselves, right? And
Mm,
then they're out pushing out code and solving their all problems. I think that having developers on those teams, like you said, will not only make better developers, but also make things run a lot faster. So
yeah,
highly, highly agree with that.
yeah.
You had brought up something about culture as well, which I think is a really interesting topic. Uh,
Mm.
Culture is something that it's just like this word that's just kind of like, what is it?
But it is
What,
really,
yeah, what is culture, right? It's we when I think of culture, I think of like Google's offices or like, how, they have like ping pong tables or whatever, you know what I mean? What
yeah.
is the culture at Unleash and how did you come to form it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Culture is something I'm really passionate about, and I remember when I started to really kind of engage with culture, it's exactly as you said. It was sort of it's something really fluffy to me. It's sort of
Yes.
really not tangible. What is it really? Coming from engineering, I'm trained in maths. I'm trained in systems. I'm really kind of I know my numbers type of a guy. So culture, what really made it for me was sort of starting to break it into a system. So there we go, there you go. There is an engineer breaking down culture into a system, but it's sort of a system. There is sort of two key parts to it. It's the tangible and it's the intangible pieces. So the tangible is exactly what you say. It's when you think of Google, you think of, ping pong, you think of some few colors,
Mhm.
you think of like everything you can see, observe. And then you have the intangible is sort of these are kind of the core that you cannot as easy see, but
Mhm.
it's basically the values and what are the stories that is being told and what is sort of the feeling, what is sort of, I think one of the things that is sort of really summarize a company culture. I'm thinking about company culture first and foremost now, but it also applies to kind of more national cultures.
Mhm.
It's sort
Mhm.
of it's the way we do things around here
Mhm.
when you have worked in a company for some time, you start to adapt and you start to kind of work in one way. And if you start breaking it and this and digesting also the tangible things, it's about what are you talking about and what you're not talking about. When you kind of thinking about a good culture that you have been exposed to, you probably think of, okay, we were actually good at talking about these problems, or we were really good at talking about these things. And then you think about maybe an unhealthy culture where you didn't really feel safe and you didn't really have a lot of joy. You probably had another story to tell that maybe we were not, or maybe the boss was always correcting you if you were wrong in front of everybody, like super simple examples. So it's a lot about what you talk about, but also how you talk about stuff. It's sort of what are the words you're using. One very easy example again is when you enter a team or a part of an organization in a company, you can listen to if there is a us and them type of telling,
Mhm.
or if it's a
Yep.
we of telling. And if there is an us and them, there is distance, right? It's oh, they in support is always doing all of this mess, and we in development always need to fix it, rather than we have a problem because the customer is not getting this, right? So it's sort of small kind of signs or kind of something you can pick up. And it's also coming back, this sort of who are the heroes of the company, who is sort of celebrated and why are they celebrated? Are you celebrated because you made something? Are you celebrated because you are the one that was fixing this customer incident by yourself and didn't involve anybody else, and you are the hero to really make this happen on your own? Or are you celebrated because you are bringing in others and sort of were sort of doing this together, and you sort of making sure there is somebody else that can support you and you are not there because, everybody needs to have a replacement type of thing. So that's a different kind of observation. So one of the things I always looked at when I was coming into a new organization when I was in corporate was when I entered as a VP, when I talked to my leadership team, were they talking about individual names in the team? or were they talking about the team as a referring to the team by the name? And if they were talking about the individuals, that let me understand that I needed to explore a bit further because probably they had one or two persons in that team, obviously really good, but also probably keeping other people in the team for stepping up because they were sort of taking a lot of space. They were sort of the go-to guy, and the go-to guy is a really nice position because you feel important, but at the same time, you're keeping the rest of the team to stepping up and really accelerating themselves. And if you have one people on that team that is good, you can get so far. If you have five people on a team that is equally good, you can get much quicker and much farther. And another advice that was received as a career advice was sort of saying, as a leader, always make sure you're replaceable. If you are sort of in the threads, in the weeds, always sort of balancing everything and making stuff happen by yourself, and always need to kind of, if you're leaving, everything is breaking, you're pretty stuck because who want to take you out of that team?
Yeah.
So that was also kind of one of my mantras. Always build a system and not build a system that is dependent on people. And that also leads to a certain type of a culture. So I always say to my leadership team whenever whenever we talk about culture, it always starts with me. So I'm the one that is the first, and the type of culture I want to build, I need to live that and it needs to be come through me. And if I'm not doing it, how can I expect you to do that? And if you are and if you are not able to do that, how can you expect your team to do this and behave like that? So I think it's one way to break it down, and you can go on and sort of go piece by piece in how you operate your company. But us, it's yeah, it's this it's a mix of the tangible and intangible, and they impact each other always. They work in tandem.
I actually really love how you put that together, the tangible and intangible, because you're right. Like there's two aspects of it. It's not just like what you see and interact with, it's the values that you actually believe in. I've been a part of a lot of corporate or, environments and not so corporate environments where the culture is not transparent from day one. It's just
Hmm.
like it's maybe the company's too big and they just don't care about the values that they originally started with. And then
Hmm.
that leads to a lot of us and them, like segmentation, and that is
Yeah,
very, very toxic. That leads to a lot of
yeah,
toxic,
yeah.
it only takes one bad apple within a team to make everyone,
True.
right?
True.
Like a cancer almost.
Yeah.
Like, I want to get into hiring now. How important is hiring been for you?
Hmm. Hiring is important, and hiring is really, really difficult. I think there's two aspects, and also a very big danger or a big mistake that we are trying to avoid. So, number one, you need to hire skilled people. Like that goes without saying. You need to have somebody in seat that is really, really skilled, or talented, meaning if they're not experienced, they have talent to really get up and running and really kind of accelerate quickly. That is sort of goes without saying. And next to that, and this is where maybe we're spend equally amount of time is understanding the culture fit, which is it does it really fit? As you say, are we bringing in a bad apple or are we
Mm-hmm.
not? And of course, this is really difficult, but it's something we pay a lot of attention to. So in our company, we are still pretty small. So until now, and we will keep doing that as long as we can. Either myself or my co-founder will always have a conversation with any new employee, re
Hmm.
independently of the role and independently of the seniority. So I'm interviewing fresh out of college kind of people that we are hiring just to get sort of an is this a culture fit?
Right.
Is this sort of something we or somebody we want to bring in? And next to hiring is firing, honestly. Not saying that we want to let people go, but exactly as you say, if there is not a culture match, if there is this bad apple, it's also your responsibility to take action on that. And that often means that either change of behavior, and if that is not possible or there is no willingness to adapt, you need to make sure that people is let go. And I think that is may come across as a bit harsh, but I would say it's more of out of respect than anything. If you're not fulfilling, if you're not in a environment where your personality fits, it's probably not good for you to be here, and it's not good for the company. So it's better for you to kind of move on to something else. And the challenge with having a strong culture fit is obviously also make sure, and how do you make sure to not create a monoculture, meaning that everybody is saying the same thing, thinking the same way. So I think we are still not seeing that, but it's definitely on my mind to make sure, okay, maybe we need to bring in some rebels to stir things a bit, kind of challenge us, because if we always have everybody thinks alike and everybody's the same personality, it can be very comfy. And I think there needs to be like a healthy level of tension
Mm.
to push the company forward.
That's actually really important. Obviously having diverse opinions and ideas is crucial for growth within a company. So
Mm.
definitely see that. But, you know, with this era of AI, right? You have junior level employees that are not obviously as good as what some AI, agents can do. How do you think it's going to affect hiring in the future, right? I think you had brought this up earlier where you're trying to avoid having to hire some people because of what AI can do, right? So how are you
Yeah,
approaching that in the future?
yeah. No, it's on my mind. I would love to have a great answer to this. I honestly, I think that I fundamentally believe that we will, for the foreseeable future, have people working in companies.
Yeah. Mm,
So okay, if that is the case, we need to make sure that there is people allowed to grow, and I think that people need to grow, and I believe that. So I think the biggest maybe one of the biggest questions on my mind, given the AI, is how do you build up a talent pool in the company, and how do you go by that? Maybe it's less difficult than we think of right now, because the younger generation will be more kind of trained using digital tools and AI, so they kind of started to have a higher efficiency level than we used to see them. Uh, but I still think that you need to build experience, and needed to build experience, you need to do the actual work.
yeah.
So there needs to be some level of talent management, bringing in also youngers. And I see there is a lot of conversation saying there will be a lost generation of graduates. I think we're still in the moment of everything is a hype and a FOMO. So I think it's not going to look like that, but it's definitely going to change. And but I still see us in need for talents, but it's going to be probably how you build that experience is going to differ from what it used to be.
I think it's going to make a lot more entrepreneurs, to be honest, because in order to get that
Probably.
experience, right, no one's
Probably.
going to hire you, so you got to go out and do it on your own. And
Yeah,
hopefully,
that's a good one.
exactly, right, we'll have a lot of more failed, entrepreneurs looking for jobs later that have had built something and solved some real problems and gained some real skills. Hopefully, there'll be more well-rounded employees in that sense, which would be great.
Mm.
But yeah, we talked a lot about like hiring, we talked a lot about leadership, obviously Unleash. Is there anything that we didn't get to talk about that you think we should have spoken about?
Oh, there's so much going on. We didn't talk about the macros. We didn't talk about the geopolitical picture that it impacted everything, obviously. Maybe that's too big of a conversation, but it still impacts, it also creates
Yeah,
opportunities. So I think that in times of change, that is a time of opportunities, and you just need to kind of embrace that change and sort of go with the flow, and sort of
yeah.
seek the opportunity for what is coming. But yeah,
I mean, there's so much going on in the world, especially in my country. You got some customers over there, right? But at
yeah,
least you're dealing with software, not
yeah,
like physical products, right?
sure.
Exactly. Like I don't know. I think with AI, when all the misinformation that's online, like geopolitical stuff, I'm really worried about the future, but also a little bit optimistic because I
Mm,
think, especially in democracies around the world, people really do have the power, and they'll start to wake up and hopefully
mm,
change the world for the better. Cool,
yeah.
man. Really, really great discussion today. I'm really excited to have you on. We have a closing tradition where the last guest left a question for you, and you'll leave a question for the next guest. Are you ready for your question? How does your definition of success differ from where it began? Yes.
Mm. Yeah, so the question is obviously when did it begin? So let's say when we started our company. Yeah, what did we look at as success at the time? I mean, when you start a company, particular when you are in more kind of maybe had some years of experience, I'm not sure, but I guess so. you realize how difficult it is to kind of start a company, right? Or kind of to build a business. So in the earlier days, it was sort of getting into revenue and sort of seeing that you were starting to have enough revenue to sort of be cash positive. That would be
Hmm.
a tremendous success. And over the years, we started to move into that. Of course, we are not cash positive, but we definitely see that it's sort of, we are growing, we are operating the business in a way that it allows us to quite quickly pivot into cash positive if needed. So that's great.
Hmm.
So the definition of success now moves more into kind of, I would say, more of the traditional CEO type of success, sort of make sure we create value for our owners. By the end of the day, my responsibility as a CEO and on this company or in any company is that you create value for your investors. There are people putting money into the company, and
Hmm.
they are not, well, they expect a return on that investment, and that is also where I'm seeing that is my core responsibility to make that happen and make that happen as best as possible. And of course that means operating the company in a way that allows this return to happen. So I think that changed a bit. I'm not sure if that was a response to the question, but that's definitely how it
No, it
changed.
definitely makes sense. When you're a CEO of a company that's just, two people, the definition of success is definitely going to change when you have employees, investors, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I highly, see that as a great answer for that. And not too many people realize that. They think of
Mm.
all this like maybe fluffy answers, but then actually, when you want to be a successful CEO, you have to create profit and, return for your investors, or else they're going to be calling you like,
You
hey,
know,
what's going on
what is
here?
happening here? What are you
Exactly.
guys doing?
Exactly, exactly. So that's a great one, man. I really appreciate that. All right. Now it's your turn. What question do
Yeah.
you have for the next guest?
Yeah, so I'm all into leadership, and I think leadership starts with myself. So my question to the next guest on the show would be, okay, you are assuming a leader, but either a formal or informal leader. What is your weaker parts of your personality, of your skill set, that you are aware of, and how do you work to compensate for that? Meaning, how do you mitigate those?
Mm. Ooh, very good. That takes a lot of reflection. Sometimes people don't do enough of that. That's incredible, man. Yeah, I think it definitely as leaders, we need to make sure that, we show that leadership through our actions, no matter whatever weaknesses we have. And that's a really good one to think about. Cool,
Hmm.
man. Awesome. Well, Egil, it's been a really great chat with you today. I'm really looking forward to seeing the future of Unleash, and hopefully Unleash will be, in all these markets here in Asia and around the world, and you'll
I would
enjoy.
love to see more traction in Asia, so make it happen. Let's make it happen.
I will be sharing this podcast all over Asia for you, my friend. Thank you so much, and yes, hope to see your journey a success, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great to be on your show.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps this channel grow. And if you are a product manager or a startup founder who wants to share your story or some of the struggles that you've gone through in your career, then definitely reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. And until next time, happy building, everyone.